3 years ago, if someone had asked me what loyalty looked like, I would have pointed straight at my marriage. My wife and I had been together for almost 10 years. We weren't one of those couples constantly posting romantic photos online or bragging about how perfect everything was. Our relationship was quieter than that. It was built on routines, shared struggles, and the belief that we would always show up for each other when things got hard, and things did get hard. The first time was when she was diagnosed with cancer. I still remember the exact moment. We were sitting in a sterile doctor's office holding hands when the oncologist explained the test results. The word malignant hit the room like a bomb. My wife went pale. I could feel her hand shaking in mine. She looked at me like the world had just collapsed. I was terrified too, but I forced myself to stay calm. I told her we would get through it together, that we would fight it step by step. And for the next year, that's exactly what we did. Our lives became a cycle of hospitals, chemotherapy appointments, medications, and long nights where neither of us slept much. I worked during the day, then came home and took care of everything else: cooking, cleaning, driving her to appointments, sitting beside her when the chemo made her so sick she couldn't keep food down. There were nights she cried because she thought she was dying, nights she apologized to me for ruining my life. Every single time I told her the same thing: we were in this together. Eventually, after one of the hardest years of our lives, the treatments worked. The doctors told us the cancer was in remission. It felt like we had survived a war. For a little while, life became peaceful again. We went back to normal routines, started making plans for the future, and allowed ourselves to believe the worst was behind us. But about a year later, another diagnosis arrived: multiple sclerosis. I'll never forget the look on her face when the neurologist explained it. The fear came flooding back instantly. MS wasn't something that could simply be cured. It was something she would have to live with. And once again, everything changed. There were days when she struggled to walk properly, days when the fatigue was so overwhelming she couldn't even get out of bed. Some mornings she woke up with numbness in her hands or blurred vision. Once again, I stepped into the role of caretaker without hesitation. I cut back my work hours. I handled the house, the bills, the cooking, everything. I helped her get dressed on the bad days and drove her to every appointment. Friends and family sometimes told me they didn't know how I did it, but honestly, I never saw it as a sacrifice. I saw it as what you do when you love someone. Marriage to me meant staying when things got ugly, not just when things were easy. Over time, the treatments helped stabilize her MS. The symptoms didn't disappear completely, but they became manageable. Slowly, she began getting pieces of her life back. She started going out with friends again, picked up hobbies she had abandoned during the illness, and began to look like the person I remembered from before all the hospitals. For the first time in years, our life felt almost normal again. Then everything flipped. I started feeling constantly exhausted. At first, I blamed stress or lack of sleep, but the fatigue kept getting worse. I began experiencing strange pain in my joints and persistent fevers that wouldn't go away. Eventually, my doctor ordered a long list of tests. When the results came back, I was diagnosed with a chronic autoimmune condition. It wasn't immediately life-threatening, but it was serious enough that I would need long-term treatment and possibly surgery. My doctor warned me that there would likely be periods where I couldn't function normally. For the first time in years, I was the one sitting in a doctor's office feeling scared. I remember driving home that day thinking about how many times I had sat beside my wife during moments like this. Now the roles were reversed. At first, she seemed supportive. She came to a couple of appointments with me and told me we would handle it together, just like we had handled everything before. But over the next few weeks, something about her behavior started to change. She became distant, colder. She spent more time on her phone, more nights going out with friends. Sometimes she wouldn't come home until late. I told myself I was just being paranoid. After everything we'd survived together, why would she suddenly pull away now? Then one night, while we were sitting on the couch, her phone lit up on the table. A message appeared from a name I didn't recognize. The preview read, "Can't stop thinking about last night." My stomach dropped instantly. When I confronted her, she didn't even try very hard to deny it. She admitted she had been seeing someone else. Apparently, it had been going on for a few months. I remember asking the question that kept echoing in my head. How could you do this after everything we've been through? Her answer was colder than anything I expected. She said she had already spent years being the sick one in the relationship. She said she couldn't imagine going through that life again, this time as the caretaker.
She told me my illness felt like too much. In other words, she didn't want to be the one sacrificing now. 2 weeks later, she packed her things and moved out. Just like that. The woman I had stood beside through cancer, through MS, through years of fear and suffering, walked away the moment the roles were reversed. Sometimes people ask me if I regret staying with her through all those years, and honestly, I don't. Because loyalty isn't about whether the other person deserves it. It's about the kind of person you choose to be. But what I learned the hard way is that not everyone believes loyalty works both ways.